Return, O Virgin Daughter of Israel, to these your highways by which you went. Welcome to Reunion Roadmap, a place to discover the people and communities along the highway of restoration for Israel's House of Joseph. Reunion Roadmap is a B'nai Yosef North America production. Be our guest for the next hour as we meet the people of the emerging House of Joseph here in North America. Shalom. Welcome to another episode of Reunion Roadmap. I am Safania Pappas, and with me is Al McCarn, our Executive Director. And we're going to the state of Texas to interview Revis Daggett. Isn't that correct, Al?
Well, yes, my friend and colleague Revis, another one of those awesome people I've not yet met in person, but we have the blessing of serving together on the advisory board for Root Source with Gidon Ariel. What you'll find very quickly is Revis is one of those brilliant personalities, one of those people you just are drawn to, you can't help but notice. She's just friendly, compassionate, and exuberant, and very unique, as you'll hear. The reason that I wanted to talk to her is she understands her identity as part of those Anusim, the hidden Jews who fled Spain and Portugal during the years of the Inquisition, 500 years ago, and now are scattered throughout the Americas especially. And many of them are not aware of their heritage. But what Revis learned early on in her childhood is, there's a connection here to, first of all, my Spanish neighbors and community, or Hispanic community in West Texas, where she grew up. And then as she continued her journey of learning Spanish and getting to know her Mexican-American friends and neighbors, found out how that applied to her background. So that's what we're going to hear in this, it's a lengthy conversation. It's 5 episodes in our regular podcasts. So, Zefania, you are aware of the hidden Jews, or the Anusim. What have you known of them up to now?
Well, I do know that there was a forced conversions going on during the Inquisition. This happened a long time ago in the 1500s. Columbus, we know that he was it's very high likelihood that he was Jewish. I really believe he was, so 1492, we're talking about, that was right in the middle of when the Inquisition was going on, where there was a forced conversion of Jews to actually Roman Catholicism, and they tried everything to hide their ancestry, who they were. Many times they would have an upper room that had no windows, where they would be lighting candles and continuing to practice Shabbat, despite what was happening and within that perspective. But some of them fled. Spain, went to other places. Many of them ended up in Latin America. So we have this huge now awakening happening among Hispanic people in Latin America to their identity as Israel or Jewish, whatever, but it's happening.
Yeah, it is. Now, what you hear later on in the interview is Revis is going to talk about what I would say is the shadow of the Inquisition, the continuing influence, even after half a millennium. She'll talk about grandmothers, Mexican grandmothers and Mexican-American grandmothers who don't want to speak about what they know of their Jewish heritage or what's been passed down. How about that? It was such an impression on these people half a millennium ago that it still impacts their descendants to this day, which is why the emerging of the hidden Jews is happening gradually. But we would hope it would accelerate in this day that God is bringing about massive steps in the restoration of all Israel as we look to the final redemption. So with that as introduction, let's go to Fort Stockton, Texas, and meet Revis Daggett. Hey, welcome back to another interview segment with Reunion Roadmap. This is Al McCarn, and today we are traveling all the way out to West Texas to the thriving metropolis of Fort Stockton to meet my friend, my sister, my fellow advisor with Root Source, Revis Daggett. Revis, thank you for joining the program.
You're welcome. It's exciting to get to be a part of it, especially just knowing our connection through Root Source and all the amazing people that are advocating and doing what they're doing because of Root Source and because of otherwise. So it's an honor for me. Thank you.
Yeah, now we're going to talk a little bit about Root Source, but well, mostly I'm going to get to your roots. So let me start there. You are a Texas native. You just told me that you come from Fort Davis and you now live in Fort Stockton. So tell us a little bit about what makes Revis Revis.
Okay. Yes, I am a native of Fort Davis. It's a little old town. I love to, when I travel the world, say I grew up in a village, because it is. It's like 1,000 people up in the mountains, this beautiful area. And my parents were both school teachers, school administrators, and I'm the youngest of 4 girls. So I tend to be very gregarious, outgoing, because maybe independence in a small town, but my parents taught us a lot of strength and courage and confidence. We were raised in the Word. We were raised in the Southern Baptist Church, and we had such a beautiful group of ladies who worked so diligently to just impart scriptures, from vacation Bible school to Sunday school, all of those beautiful things. But I grew up in a community that was predominantly Hispanic, 80% Hispanic or Spanish speaking. So you could say Mexican, Mexican American, but many of them, knowing their roots, were tied to Spain. That didn't register a whole lot as a kid. It was just, oh, they're Mexican because Mexico's right next door. They speak Spanish, but because I was a minority there, only 2 out of every 8 families was Protestant or Anglo. I thought, man, if I'm going to engage their parents, their grandparents, I need to learn to walk like them, talk like them, eat like them. So I was in my friends' homes every day. Every day I was learning to cook enchiladas or chile rellenos. Y también yo quería hablar español, so I wanted to learn Spanish, and I learned to speak it fluently so I could connect. I feel like communication is such a beautiful part of the connection, and I'm very much relationally based. So I would say that's a huge part of who Revis is.
Well, that's really cool. That's one of the things I love about Texas, especially West and South Texas, is it's a blending of cultures.
Yes.
Yeah. And
yes.
Usually it's a beautiful blend, some tensions.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah. And even to the point that a part of what my mission in the last few years has been is building a strong bridge between the state of Chihuahua and the state of Texas, because so many Texans, or let's say Americans, have an impression that the minute you cross the border, that's it. You're going to be kidnapped, or you're going to be robbed, or something's going to happen. And I'm like, no. It's so different. My vehicle is registered in Mexico. I drive to the border at Presidio and Ojinaga all the time. I go into Chihuahua City. I go to Guatemala, and I go down to Barrancas del Cobre, which we call Copper Canyon, Basesiache, Batopilas, and I travel on my own. I go and I just build bridges, and I make connections with people to find out, what are they really like? Who is down there? What's their mindset? And I'm telling you, there are amazing folks just waiting to encounter folks like you and me. And if they had the ability or the courage, maybe they would be driving up this way. So I'm just trying to be an ambassador to build bridges in a cross-cultural situation, because we have this all over the world now. Why have those barriers?
Yeah. Well, that's true. It's it's good to have these relations and be able to cross borders in the proper way.
This is correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Unequivocally. Yes. Yes.
And let me ask you this. Have you been involved in the intercessory efforts of Texans and Mexicans to address the wounds of the past and bring healing and reconciliation?
So from the intercessory part, not in the definition of the praying and gathering in prayer and walking and declaring per se. However, I have done some things that I felt was required of me. I have fasted. I have driven roads just by myself. So my husband laughs when people say, "Are you crazy? You let your wife go down there?" And he's like, "You haven't met my wife if you think you're going to tell her no." But he's very supportive. He's precious. And he grew up here. He knows I can navigate. And I'm very resourceful. But above all, our Father is resourceful. And when I know that I've been commanded by him to go, I go and I'm obedient and he makes a way. And a part of the adventure is seeing how he's going to make a way or what way it is he wants to make. So that's the sense that I've been doing. I've been connected with the mayor of the city of Chihuahua, the governor of the state of Chihuahua, some of the tourism committees, medical tourism, because of having battled cancer, with 1% odds to survive. And here I am 6 years later, actually, by the grace of God. And so I've connected in a lot of ways in how he's told me to do it.
So it's interesting you say you're not afraid to travel through Mexico because you know what it's like there. And when
Yes.
people say, "Oh, you're going to get robbed, you're going to get kidnapped," well, we hear the same kind of thing when we tell people that we go to Israel, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I went to Israel with my son in 2014. I was serving as an ambassador or a representative for Dr. Del Sanchez, who has an organization called the Anusim Center of the Americas. And so I went on his behalf. He was going through some health challenges, and I went to Ben Gurion University for a symposium that was being held there. And I didn't want to travel on my own, so I convinced my son to go. And again, people were like, "You're letting your wife go to Israel?" And my husband says again, "Oh, you don't know this gal. She'll be fine." So, and he let his son go. So there my son and I were, and we were driving around, and I kid you not, I got off onto a wrong road in an area where I was not supposed to be. And by the grace of God, he gave me the exact strategy of how to get out of there. And it felt a little hairy at times just because I really was out of my element. In Mexico, I can speak Spanish. I can connect, and I can tell by their vocabulary, etc., their intent or their background, because I am a linguist, but I'm out of my element when it comes to, say, Arabic or Hebrew in conversational terms, etc. But I still feel very confident being in certain areas. But when I got off into an area I shouldn't have been, it was a little awkward and hairy, but it doesn't stop me from going back. I still go back. And that was more my own feeling. No one threatened me. No one did anything. But I know the possibilities are there. But they're there in Mexico. They're there in Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, Chicago. Quite frankly, they're there in my own hometown of 1,000 people. It just depends if you are in the wrong place at the wrong time, perhaps, is how people sometimes say it. So I say my prayers. I lift my head. I put my shoulders back. And I go and march because I am a part of an army and I want to see life and truth and laughter be spread. I want to build bridges, and it is possible if people are willing to listen and lay down arms. I have heard if how does the expression go? It's more or less that if you ask Israel to lay down her arms, there will be no Israel. But if you ask her enemies to lay down their arms, it's impossible to do so. Or, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm super awkward in that expression, but you get the idea.
Yeah, well, I believe it goes, and it might be from Prime Minister Golda Meir. If the Arabs lay down their arms, then there would be peace tomorrow. If Israel lays down their arms, then tomorrow there'd be no Israel.
That's correct. It becomes annihilation. And that's the bottom line. Annihilation is possible anywhere, but there are certain hotbeds. There are certain hotbeds. And I've always been a fan of, let's say, underdogs in this instance, only because on the global, on the global scales, that's how it looks. But when we read the scriptures, we're like, yeah, these aren't underdogs, but I'm willing to stand with them because I believe in the truth of the message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we have similar outlooks here, because I'm beginning to understand just the preservation of the Jewish people, as the remnant, the visible remnant of God's nation of Israel. That is the greatest evidence that there's a God.
Yeah.
And we Christians talk about grace. Oh, absolutely. I'm saved by faith, by grace through faith in Jesus. Yes. But do you know, this is the revelation I'm getting, that just the return of the Jewish people to their inheritance in Israel, that's an act of grace.
It defies the odds.
It defies the odds, and it's because it's something God said he would do.
That's right. Yeah. What he says he will do, he does. He is true to his word. He's the same yesterday, today, forever. Any of these scriptures that we could quote, but in the natural, it looked impossible. And yet, here they are. Isn't that beautiful?
It is.
I love it.
Okay, Revis, you mentioned a word that I want to investigate some more.
Okay.
And I mean, you said Anusim, and that's the whole reason I want to talk to you, because a little bit of background, folks. Revis and I are blessed to be part of Gidon Ariel's advisory board at Root Source. So several weeks ago, we had a group chat, and it was about who is a Jew or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes. And, I've been aware that there are different types of Jewish people, Ashkenazim, Sephardim, Yemenite Jews, Ethiopian Jews. There are others, in fact, coming from South Asia now. The rabbinate has recognized the B'nai Menashe who say they are descended from the tribe of Manasseh, and bringing them into the Jewish nation. Well, okay, Revis, who are the Anusim?
Yeah, well, and do they even know that they are Anusim? So I became aware of this concept through my friend that I mentioned, Dr. Del Sanchez, reading some of his books. And at first, because my family, we had a bed and breakfast. So we hosted him and his wife in West Texas, didn't even know them. They knew some friends of ours. So we're hosting them, and we're trying to be good neighbors, like Texas Friendly would be, by helping and assisting individuals in their mission. And I begin to listen, and something about this mission picks at me. And I'm thinking, what do you mean the Inquisition? What was the Inquisition? And yet I was raised in the American church. I'm raised in American schools, and we've learned, and I knew the term. I know Ferdinand and Isabella. I know the period more or less because we memorized Columbus sailed the ocean blue of 1492. So there's some things that register, but I suspect there is, to a degree, the idea that, imagine Daniel being told, and now, boop, lock it up, swallow it, say nothing until it's time. And when it's time, it's time. Information comes out. This is just like family secrets, the ones maybe we don't want people to know. After generations, something gets eked out. Well, Father has a plan for how he's going to disseminate info. And I chuckle sometimes and I think, oh, no wonder you didn't tell us, because we probably would have tried to pull it all together and make it happen and create this tower in Babel all over again, or whatever the case is. It just wasn't time. But as we look at the scriptures, as we look at his 7 days of creation, we look at his timing, his biblical calendar, it's time. It's time. And so information is coming forth that's never been out there. So for the ones who argue against a creative thinker saying, what if? Could it be? I say, well, let's look. Didn't Daniel have to close up his secrets and not say anything? Aren't there? And there's many we could suggest we're in this situation or in this boat that as the scrolls unroll, more information comes forth, right? So just to throw it in there, Al, all of a sudden, all of these things started coming to mind. I would have these thoughts about expressions that we use. And I would ask, why do we use that expression? So I would have some fun with you. Skin in the game. Skin in the game. What's your first thought about skin in the game? Why do you think we use that expression?
Yeah, it's because if you are invested somehow in a process or a thing, then you're going to work until it comes forth into fruition. It matures.
That's right. Are you ready for what I think pinpoints scripturally? And I think that the ones who have carried the word in their hearts, in their DNA, as we have gone into a scattering, be it the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom, either kingdom, we have a connection to the scripture if we've endeavored to hold fast or come back to him, right? To make aliyah to his heart, if even not to his land yet.
And now, Trust by Dylan White.
Lord, I've been working on my trust issues, and I've been learning not to trust issues. Full transparency, it's been tough to work through. Trusting the process can often be a hurdle, man. And I've been praying on my knees lately. Righteousness and peace are the things that I'm chasing. Greed and lust and honor are the tools of the Satan. And funny how they pop up whenever the world is breaking, man. It's okay though, you work it all up for the best just like we pray for. You show me how to see the good and just be grateful. Cause challenges are simply chances to be faithful. I know darkness is meant to show light. I know deserts are sources of life. I was blind but you gave me new sight. Up and downs both gracious, gifts from on high. No, milagro. Yeah, you have the words of life. Where else could I go? Ain't no milagro. Yeah, you made the darkest night to revive my soul. $25 in the bank, trusting in my God that I ain't about to break. He had cattle on 1,000 hills, he gave me everything. Saying if you see my girl, you'd understand my faith. Man, I'm blessed, yeah, I'm blessed, it's just the truth. Looking at the sky, but don't let it get you blue. Spirit only rests when you in a joyous mood. I ain't never seen a Toddy got it begging for no food, it's true. Solid dream, no biggie. He can turn the thorns into crowns. Then we gonna see behind the curtain when that trumpet sounds. Pull a David Blaine, peering on that Temple Mount. All over problems, really opportunities. A sort of lower joy. Bring his name to unity and lift up L'chaim. Cause if we're being honest, redemption is a show, but tomorrow isn't promised.
Welcome to the Midrash portion of Reunion Roadmap, a production of B'nai Yosef North America. This is David Jones from Florida, and I'm here with another elder within B'nai Yosef, Barry Phillips, who's up in Virginia today. How you doing today, Barry?
Hot. It's been a hot week, and it's going to get hotter.
Yeah,
that says nothing to you guys down in Florida, I know.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 93 today with the feels over 100, so...
Yeah, that's about what we had yesterday. It was tough. We were having Florida weather in Virginia yesterday.
That's a good crossover. Well, today we want to talk a little bit about freedom and liberty and things that are involved in it. And there's a scripture that if many people just take a quick look at it, it might seem perplexing. And it's the scripture where James talks about the law of liberty. And you know, when I first saw that a long time ago, I first saw that, I said, wow, how does that work, you know? And when I started to come into some of the understanding I have now, I'm seeing that. But when someone first approaches that, it's probably mind-scrambling. What do you think about that, Barry?
Well, from our Sunday school days, we were taught that Yah only gave us, or gave Israel in particular, the Torah to prove to them that they couldn't do it. And that was always a head scratcher for me. Why would Yahweh intentionally set his people up for failure?
Yeah.
You know, and as an adult now, I look back on that and I think not only was I taught that early on as a child, but that's part of the doctrine that I declared from that same system pulpit. And I struggled with that concept then, and I can accept it now. I do not believe that Yah intentionally set up his people with a system with excruciating details of how to do this, only to prove that it was a complete failure. It does not make sense. So the Torah either is not what we think it is, or what had been taught that it is, or else it has a different purpose. Instead of a legal code that tells us that we're incapable of performing its parts, it is a system of liberty. And David, I guess, when we say law and liberty, we don't really see the two equating each other. But I think about it this way. If I establish firm boundaries for my family, for my children, grandchildren, when my grandkids come here to the house, they understand this is Papa's law. This is how it works. He has firmly defined the boundaries of behavior and what's available to us. And say please, and you will go to, if you spend the night, you will go to bed when we say to go to bed, etc. But within those boundaries, they can run, they can play, they can hoot, holler, have fun, color, paint, whatever it is that they're going to do. They know where the boundaries are. Everything inside the boundary is free and full of liberty. The only problem with lack of liberty is when you start transgressing the boundaries.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. It's like it makes me think of this. America, here we are, we're land of the free, home of the brave, right? And so we think liberty and freedom and all this on a hopefully on a daily basis, but are we really grasping the idea of it? I mean, do we really think that freedom means absolutely zero law or rule? Absolute no rules is anarchy. That's not a blessing. That's not freedom, and that doesn't protect me either.
Well, you're right. It is anarchy, but it doesn't start off that way as a concept in our mind. Nobody, unless you're an anarchist, I guess, really sets out to live in such a state of society. No one wants to live in complete chaos and upheaval. What it starts out as is a desire for hedonism, which says that everyone is free to do what they will. That's the whole of the law. That's Aleister Crowley's mantra. Do what thou wilt is the whole of the law. The way that really functionally translates is you do what you want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. And as long as we don't bother each other, everybody's good. It's the utopian society where everybody enjoys life to the full of their desired expression without any restrictions. Well, the concept of that is you don't bother me, I don't bother you. That's a good concept. in our mind. But it leads to what you've just described, anarchy, because man cannot be trusted to not reach down to the depraved level of himself and act that out.
Yeah.
If man could be trusted, you can have that utopian ideal. What Yaakov or James is saying here is, in part, I think, also that the Torah has the function and the ability of rearranging our values, our perspectives. It doesn't redeem us. The blood and the work of Messiah is the only thing that can change and redeem a man. But once changed and redeemed, the Torah teaches that man how to walk out this new character, this new nature that he has been given. And that's where you look in the mirror and realize my chains are gone. My yearning for utopia and hedonism is actually gone, which is, the craving for hedonism is actually a chain.
Wow.
It's shackles because it chains us to our flesh. The flesh is that which is carnal and desires such an ideal instead of being structured and having purpose in life.
But that's, you made a good point in that. Here we are. We're a people and we've been kind of taught that you can't keep the Torah for salvation, but we missed the point. The Torah was never given for salvation. When the people were brought out of Egypt, it was given to a people who were already redeemed. When they were brought out, Yahweh told Moses that I will redeem you when they come out. And so he redeemed them. He brought them through the water for the mikvah and brought them to the mountain to give them his word. And it was not given. He did not set them free to put them in bondage. He set them free and then had to show them how to walk in that freedom because all they knew their whole life was slavery. And it's this cognitive dissonance we have. We say, well, I'm free, but the Torah, no, that's bondage. And it's just the preconceived idea that we have of that. But no, it was the word of the loving Father who was given to his children. I think we have a problem with seeing a place between true and truth. And what I mean by that is, a lot of things are true. There's a whole lot of things that are true. The sky is blue, but sometimes the sky is red. Sometimes it's, got some yellow in there. And sometimes when the clouds are out, it's black, all those are true. But there's only one truth, and that is the word. The word is truth. And so I think we have a problem when we start to see something a little bit differently. We have a knee-jerk reaction to try to protect what we already believe, and to say we're going to protect that and we're going to guard that, but maybe the Father is trying to show us something else that is still true. And we have a hard time switching to see another side of the same point.
That reminds me of Rav Shaul's words in Galatians 5. And I used to preach on this verse all the time, quoted it out of the King James, with all of the eloquence that was in there. Anyway, verse 1 in the Scriptures translation says, "In the freedom with which Messiah has made us free, stand firm then, and do not be held with a yoke of slavery." Well, to read that in context, you have to go to the previous chapter 4, which for those who keep Torah and seek to observe it, it seems to be problematic, at least in our English translations. And then there are those who will say, well, we can't read Rav Shaul at all, or Galatians is not a book to be read. But when you understand that he is a Torah observant rabbi who stands by the Torah and teaches the Torah, we have to just change the way that we look at the book. And so what he is saying, I believe, in chapter 4 is that the Torah cannot become a codified law for us in the hands of its observance. By that, I mean, I can't take the Torah and derive from it a code to where, as you were describing, there's only one version of truth. Well, David doesn't perform my version of truth. Therefore, if I'm born again, he's not. In other words, if there's not complete symmetry between our observances, one of us is wrong, and it's not going to be me.
Yeah, I say, Barry, can we really have that kind of latitude to be that dogmatic in our approach to one another?
Well, we can't, but that hasn't stopped some from doing it anyway. And I see that that's one of the major issues, David, that's taking place in the house of Joseph and in the ranks of Ephraim right now, is that we have become very I don't want to say judgmental, but I don't know that there's a better word for it than that, where we become very capable of inspecting one another. And, we appeal to the heavens for all of the mercy and the ability of his grace for ourselves, but we don't always offer that same measure to those who are around us.
That's a good point. We say that, so, Yeshua has set us free and he's redeemed us and he's done that, but that should affect how we walk and how we live our daily lives. I mean, you mentioned Galatians 5:1. If you go down to verse 13, it says that, for brethren, you have been called to liberty, but do not use your liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but love and serve one another. So we've been set free. We've been redeemed. We've been given this liberty, and we have not been given it as a baseball bat to go beat people over the head with.
Well, could it not be seen that the Torah is given to us as a key,
yes,
with which we ourselves then are able to unlock our own chains? The Torah teaches me how to stop thinking, feeling, responding, organizing my life this way, and I'm unlocking those shackles off of me. But as you read verse 13, what I see then, we are to take that key and go to our brother and help him unlock his shackles. Not hold it up in front of him. Say, when you do as I do, then I will allow you to use my key.
Wow. That's a really good point. Now that we've been set free, are we looking to help set others free? Or are we looking to put them in our own idea of bondage?
It's a lot of power in using the Torah in that fashion. Years and years ago, I had someone say, I do not want to live in a Torah-based society. And I looked at them puzzled. When it's administrated by man. I only want to live in a Torah-based society when it's ruled over by Yeshua, because he's the only one we can trust to not use it to kill us or to kill one another. And that's true.
That's a good point. It's a very good point. But we're talking about the liberty and the freedom and the things that are given us. And do we really want to live in a Torah-based society? Well, we're going to be, So we need to walk in his ways now, I believe. But one thing I'm reminded of in that is Psalm 19:7. It says, the Torah of Adonai is perfect, restoring the inner person. And the instruction of Adonai is sure, making wise the thoughtless. Now, I'm not going to go off on common sense here, but I want to focus on that first part where it says the Torah is perfect, restoring the inner person. Wow. So we got just a few seconds left. So let's going to touch on that just really quick. What does it mean to be restored? And how does the Torah do that when we allow his word to wash over us and cleanse us? What do you think, Barry? We got about another 30 seconds.
Well, establishing boundaries, it allows me to know where I'm able to move and live and have my being and have some sense of liberty. The Torah defines the right way to think, feel, relate, conduct my business affairs. It teaches me the right way. And in applying that, when you act that out, it begins to change your character, your intentions and your purposes, your perspective, if you will.
Great way to put it. Last thing here, guys, we want to hear your thoughts. We want your feedback. We want to hear from you, and we want your ideas. Hey, what do you guys think about this, or what do you think about that, or the other thing? Let us know what you're thinking, because this is all about you. And so we want to help gather the people together and help bring unity within the body, and to try to see where everyone's at, and let's try to work together, get on the same page here. So we need your suggestions. Barry, you want to close this out?
Yeah, just again, please send in your questions, your comments, and thank you for listening to Reunion Roadmap and for partnering with us together in B'nai Yosef of North America. Tune again next week and we'll discuss some more.
And now, the music of Will Spires. Here is The Reflection.
Won't get back. Fire in the belly they lost. It demands an honest look inside. Inside there's a struggle, not against flesh and blood, against spiritual forces. I in heavenly realms. So let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return unto the Lord. It's as the ancients say, there is a proper way. According to your pattern, just as you've commanded, between the tent of meeting and the altar, come approach the laver, cleansing its water, and behold, a reflection through the blood mingled water, and behold, my transgressions have been washed away. Let us draw near the horse and seal, and see his reflection. I look at my reflection and I ask myself the question, am I yielding to be changed? What happened if I fail? Praise Yah, He's made this way. Water so pure and so cleansing. He loves me enough to let me see, to hate my sin and the heartache it brings, that He died to forgive and rose again to change my reflection in the blood mingled water, and behold, my transgressions have been washed away. Let us draw near with a horse and seal,
I hope you enjoyed the music of Will Spires and of Dylan White. And then we had a midrash called Law of Freedom. So, Tefania, here's the open-ended question. In a scriptural context, what does law of freedom mean to you?
Wow. It's kind of interesting that many of us have come from the perspective where we hear that this idea of law is like bondage. But look what happened when we were slaves in Egypt. We still had a slave mentality as a people. And then he brings us to Mount Sinai. And what does he do? He gives us some laws. What do the laws do? The laws brought us freedom from the slave mentality. So it's kind of interesting today, as we're recording this, it's called Juneteenth, which is about freedom from slavery. And so there we are. We're going to commemorate the day by talking about freedom from slavery at Mount Sinai.
Yeah, that is a good point. I think of scriptures like Psalm 2, where the nations rage against the Lord and his anointed, saying, let us cast his bonds asunder. Well, if we want total freedom, it's also total anarchy and total chaos, which brings about total destruction, because eventually, just built into the fabric of the universe, how our bodies function, how societies function, we're going to come up against those limits regardless. Laws of physics don't change. So why not operate within the Creator's parameters? And that's what gives us great freedom, as Barry and David said, freedom to operate and do whatever we want within the boundaries that have been established.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the boundaries for this podcast have been reached, and that's why we have to wrap up now and say thank you for listening to us. And please come on back next week. And also, please check out our website, b'nai-yosef.na.com, b'nai-yosef.na.com. And if you're so inclined and have been blessed by this podcast, click that donate button, and we would be honored if you'd partner with us. So on behalf of Tefania Pappas and Barry Phillips and David Jones, this is Al McCarn. Shavua Tov.
Thank you for joining us on our Union Roadmap, a production of B'nai Yosef North America. Please come back next week for another visit with the people of the emerging House of Joseph here in North America.